are streaming.
Yay! Success. All right. MoneyWise Wednesday. It feels so long since we had a MoneyWise Wednesday. I don't know why. It's only been a week.
Right.
It feels really, really long to me. So today, if you are watching this, guys, on Facebook, or if you are in our live webinar, welcome. You've got Herschel and Kelly today.
Whoa, whoa.
The other Kelly, who Herschel calls IE, which I think is awesome because I'm Kelly with an I. She had to be somewhere else today, so unfortunately she's not able to join us, but she really likes this topic, and I know she'd be here if she could. So, but we're really excited to bring you the topic of identity and fraud protection today. So the reason why, like, just to give you a little bit of backstory of why we picked this topic is because, you know, with everything going on with COVID this year and just everything looking so different, there are certain types of fraud that are on the rise. And so we wanted to take some time to preface, you know, as we are approaching the end of the year, which is crazy to think about, we're in September.
Yes, yes.
But we're in September. And so what comes after September? The holidays. You get the holidays coming up, and not only is fraud something that's heightened during the holiday season, but then you also have COVID stuff still happening and going on, and there's just weird stuff going on. So we wanted to take the time today to let you know about some of the things that we're hearing in the marketplace, in the financial world, and then talk about some creative ways or ways that you can protect yourself. So I do hope that you will not click off if it scrolls through in your feed while you're on your lunch break or whatever, because there is some really good information, and we're going to point you in the direction of where you can find more information today. So I want to start out first by getting a little personal. Herschel, can you tell us, have you had a past experience with an identity theft situation? Have you fallen victim to something like this before? And tell us a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, personally, not so much. And that's probably more so of my personal knowledge within the financial arena that gives me that one step forward to know, take one step back if it's too good to be true, right? But we're dealing with them even as current as today. Like for instance, you referred to, you know, past instances where fraud and theft may have been prevalent, and even more so now with COVID, right? So I just received some communication from one of our members that received a phone call supposedly from the Florida Health Department, right? And with this phone call, they shared with this member that they had been in contact with someone that had tested positive, right, through contact tracing, right? And what happened, Kelly, was they said that this member needed to go and be tested immediately at their own expense. Before that phone call was over, that agent on the other line had now requested a credit card number from that member in order to process a rapid test, right? So who in the world would fall for something such as this? Someone who's vulnerable, who's in fear, and they don't know where to go to look for things that may say, like I said before, take that step back. So it's not old. It's nothing new. It's still happening, Kelly. And today I'm hopeful that you and I can exchange some dialogue that just makes the consumers out there take that step back right before taking that step forward.
Yeah. And, you know, I think too, one thing is, I think sometimes when we talk about like protecting ourselves, like you could have all the tools in the world, but something could still slip through the cracks. So, and, you know, sometimes there's a lot of stuff that happens outside of our control, that we did something wrong or we made a wrong choice, like debit card and credit card numbers. Those numbers get stolen all the time. And there's so much technology that's always changing that are allowing cyber bullies and fraudsters to be able to do that stuff. And then there's just the good old fashioned, no offense if you're young and you're a waiter or a waitress, but I mean, like if your debit card or credit card is leaving your hands and going behind a counter where someone's charging your card, you have no idea what's happening to it. It doesn't mean that you stop doing that. Obviously, some people, if that's what makes you comfortable, go for it. Only dine where you know that you can see where they're going to check you out.
Right.
But you don't know what they're doing with that number. You know, you don't know how desperate that person is. Yeah. And they might take your number and sell it, right, to someone else and make a duplicate card. You know, there's just so many things that are outside of your control. Yeah. That you just don't know. So we can't stop everything. But the cool thing is that there are tools in place that will help you catch it soon, prevent it, you know, all those sort of things. So let's jump in, and I'm going to pop up on the screen our PowerPoint presentation here, and we'll just start from the beginning.
Let's do it.
And then we're gonna, I'm gonna pause at some point, and I'm gonna jump over to the Federal Trade Commission website because there's a lot of really cool information on there.
Those resources are jammed up on that website, Kelly.
Yeah, they're really neat. I can't wait to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One quick thing that I forgot to mention, if you are watching this on Facebook Live, you're welcome to comment. We won't be able to respond to your comments during our live webinar. If you want to ask questions live during the webinar through the Q&A chat feature, come on over to envisioncu.com/webinars, and you can get the Zoom link to where you can join us today and ask those questions. Otherwise, pop the questions in the comments down below, and we'll get to them after we go off of live and have our lunch. Because let's be real. Listen, we're all about food around here.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about what is identity. Because, you know, it's like, what is your identity? So right. There's a lot of different types of things that make up who you are on paper. So you've got your biographical data, which is like, you know, when you were born, where you were born, maybe.
Mammy, pappy.
Huh?
Who's your mammy? Who's your pappy?
Who's your mammy? Who's your pappy? Exactly. And then you have medical data. So there could be information out there that's even more specific to you, like, you know, what's showing up on your credit report that's medical related. And then you've got biometric data. So biometric data might be one of the newer things that you're hearing. This is the cyber data. So this is fingerprint information. It may be like the pattern of keystrokes, which I know sounds really crazy, but that stuff is logged in the cyber webs. It's just nuts. Other biometric data, your passwords, right, that you might use, websites that you might address or visit, those sort of things. That's all biometric data. And then of course there's your financial data, which is what we're trying to protect all these things for you. And as your financial institution, we want to help you protect your financial data as well. So financial data is going to be, your bank account information, your routing numbers. And of course, a lot of these are intertwined. Like a lot of your biometric data or biographical data is part of your financial data, as far as like when you go on online banking, you may have to put in logins and passwords, and then your account information is in there. So a lot of that stuff is all mixed up. So these are things that are personally identifiable for you, right? And we're trying to protect all these things. Okay, so identity theft, identity fraud. You hear both of these terms. You're like, what's the difference? It's not super important that like they're all bad.
Yes. They all lead to some type of financial crisis that the consumer is going to experience. Like Kelly said, like these two are often mentioned hand in hand because they often coincide with one another. For instance, the identity theft, right? The identity theft is potentially whenever your information, your personal information itself has been compromised. Like all of your, what would you say, your bio information, like you just shared on the previous screen. While identity fraud is typically used for one to take advantage of a financial transaction, right? So there's a difference The identity theft is your personal information as a whole that's been compromised. Identity
Right.
fraud is me using Kelly's information to open up a new account or to get a credit card. And that's solely what my purpose is just to make that individual transaction go through a process where it's favorable for me, right?
Yeah. The way I like to look at it is the theft is the act of actually taking the information from someone. The fraud is using it information for my personal gain.
I got you. I like that.
That's kind of how, you know, it helps me remember the differences. Okay, so Herschel, tell us a little bit about what are some of the pieces of information, those identifiable pieces of information we talked about that are exposed and potentially at risk.
Absolutely. Obviously that big number that we're all gifted with that follow us from birth to death, and that's our Social Security number. Protect that number like your life depends on it, because in reality it does. Your name, right? Your name, common spellings that's close to it, could get you in trouble down the road if it's not that you identify that could be a hazard for you in the future. Your birth date, your address, geez Louise, your driver's license, your passport, marriage, divorce records, insurance, debit, credit cards, personal checks, email addresses are big too. All of these things are personal, identifiable information for us individually.
Right. You know, and some of these things, like as you're going down the list, Herschel, I'm thinking about, you know, like when you go somewhere and they say, okay, what's the last four of your social?
Yes.
And my first thought is, why do you need that from me?
Yes.
Like if I have given you my ID, right? And you have verified that I'm the person who's pictured on the thing here. Why do I have to give you my social and tell you what the last four of my social is while there's 10 other people in line behind me?
Right.
So I think it's like, just be cautious of like, I mean, and you can be respectfully questionable.
You sure can, Kelly. Thank you. Say that again, because I think a lot of us are so, we're tone deaf to our own expressions at times, right? But we also got to understand that the climate of the world right now is so open, and it needs to be receptive to us being good people, right? We don't have to attack someone just because we've got our defense mode up. We can use a very tempered approach to say, just for instance, like Kelly's about to give an example, I'll go through the pharmacy often because I need to pick up my medication, but these same people see me every single time.
Right.
Say, why do I need to give you my driver's license every single time? Which I understand driver's license, but why do I need to yell at my date of birth over the intercom? Rather than doing that, take that step back. It takes 2 seconds to remove your driver's license, place those in the tube and send that in. Respectfully, I'd ask that you review the documentation that I provide you. I'm not going to yell my information. I don't know who's behind me in the car, right? I don't know who's standing in the lobby in front of this person who's assisting me with filling my medication, right? I don't know these things, so I'm going to take an extra step to guard me and my personal information.
Yeah,
Kelly, I'm sorry.
It's really just paying attention who's around you, like you're saying. Like it's okay to tell them if they need to know certain things, right? Or if it's required. And we understand that they're also asking those questions to protect you, to protect your identity. And so, especially in a pharmacy, you know, there's a lot of impersonation, I think, in the pharmacy because people are trying to get their hands on things they don't need to be taken.
Absolutely, Kelly.
So, yeah, so they're protecting you, and so, you know, we respect that, and you got to respect that, but just be cognizant of your surroundings, be cognizant of who's around you and things like that. Okay, so there's a couple of different methods that thieves like to use. These are the most common ones. So you've got phishing scams, which a lot of people, when I'm having conversations with people, I don't know about you, Herschel, that they don't know what that means. They don't know what a scam is. And we're going to hop over to the Federal Trade Commission here in just a minute and talk about those. And then there's telephone scams, elder fraud scams. There's certainly all types of fraud are kind of like clumped into these major areas, right? So the ways that people are grabbing your information is literally, it might be physical theft, right? They might break into your car at night. Keep your cars locked, folks. Don't leave your purse in the car. Don't leave your wallet in the car. Dumpster diving. Are you shredding your information, or is it, you know, you're just tossing it in the trash can? You know, shoulder surfing. This is that. Be careful who's around you. Like I've noticed sometimes, like when I'm at a restaurant, right? You know how like if you're going to a restaurant with a couple of different people and the waiter brings everyone their individual things. Not that I don't trust the person sitting right next to me, but what if someone's walking by and I've left my debit card out face up for the waiter to come back and get?
Right.
Right. But what if somebody walked by and they took a picture of that real quick?
Yeah.
Or they have a device that allows them to do something crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like, anyways, and then there's skimming. A lot of you guys have heard of skimmers. So like gas stations, I think, are the most common.
Yeah.
And I noticed recently, I won't say which brand it is, but I've noticed now that I can bypass my PIN entry.
Yep.
For my, when I run my card and get gas at a couple of different pumps in town, and it doesn't even require my zip code anymore. Because usually when you bypassed or when you chose credit, you would type in your zip code.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Kelly, I'm right there with you. That caused me,
so
that caused me heartburn
like,
too. It gave me heartburn too. While it may be a convenience for some, it's an inconvenience for others. I get it. I'm with you.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting to me. So I'm not sure. Now, I also have rewards for pumping fuel with this particular provider. So maybe because I used my reward number at the beginning, it identified me based on my cell phone number and it allowed me to skip that. But I don't know that the technology is that smart, to be honest with you, at the gas station. So anyways, I kind of like, radar was up about that a couple weeks ago. And I was like, that's interesting. I need to look into that. And then of course there's the phishing email. So when we say phishing with a PH, still the word phishing makes us think of phishing, right? So let's switch on over here and I'm going to show you the Federal Trade Commission website. Let me tell you how I got here. I literally just typed in FTC, Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov. And then once you get in there, there's a little button. Let me back up and show you even further. Right here, it says tips and advice for consumers is what you click on. And then I click on video and media because there's a lot of really cool stuff here that's visual. I'm a visual learner. I like to hear stories and see things. Helps me just kind of understand it more. And this phishing scams, this is a little game. I'm going to click on it and we'll play it together here for a second. And it might explain to you what phishing scams are. So let's watch the fun little card. Here. Let's go ahead and click. And the first question that they ask us here on our little game says, you receive an email from your bank or credit union informing you that it suspects an unauthorized transaction on your account. To protect your account, the email advises you to click on a link to verify your identity. Should you do it or not? Now let's break this down a little bit. It says you've received an email from your bank. So let's read some of the answers here. The first answer says, no way, the whole thing sounds fishy. If you're concerned about your account, contact your bank directly using a phone number or web address that you know is genuine. However, there's two arguments here for, yeah, it's okay to go ahead and click on it. So the first one says, yes, if someone is using your bank account, you don't have a second to lose. Immediately click on the link to verify your identity. And then the last one says, yes, but first you should make sure the message looks like it's legitimate. Now, these are all very tricky answers because you might go, okay, yeah, let me make sure it's legitimate before, you know, so that I can move on here. Now, because this is, I think they're trying to get us here, right? They're trying to make us pick something wrong. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I think the answer is no way, because your credit union or bank is never going to send you an email asking you to verify your identity through a clickable tool. Okay. I'm going to click no way. Okay, good. And I was right.
Right.
So it says, exactly, not only should you refuse to click on the link, which could expose you to viruses and spyware, but if you think someone is phishing for your personal information, forward that email to spam@uce.gov, because they do, track this stuff and try to crack down on it. And also the company or the bank or the organization that was being impersonated.
Yes.
A lot of times you'll see, and I'm not sure if it's in this content anywhere, but a lot of times it'll appear to be correct. Like they'll steal the logo for the company. But if you look at the reply email that it came from,
yes, Kelly, thank you.
It'll have
Preach.
one digit off. It'll be spelled. Like, let's say, for example, it looked like Envision Credit Union and it had our logo on it because someone stole it off the internet, right? Or off of something else. But maybe the I in Envision is missing.
There you go.
So it looks, you read it real quickly and you think that's from Envision Credit Union because it says at Envision Credit Union, Joe at Envision Credit Union or whatever. So a lot of times, that's why it's called phishing, because they're hoping that you will just bite and take the. So, this little game is really fun. I just wanted to point you here. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but what I really want you to do is see the types of questions that are being asked here, because these are, I think there's 5 of them. Like here's one where when you're surfing the web, it says when you're surfing the web, you see a pop-up message from your internet service provider saying that it needs you to click on the link to verify or update your account information should you comply with it. And again, like you might go, okay, well, it appears as though it's coming from them, right? So maybe I should click on those things because I don't want any account information to be out of date. But again, anytime you get a pop-up when you're on the web, it's probably not a legitimate, unless you're on that vendor's website. Because I know a lot of pop-ups come up on existing sites. But if you're not already on that site and you're getting a random pop-up, it's probably a phishing scam. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to move forward here for other questions, but so you get the idea. So go on your time, on your own time. I hope that you'll go back and
self-educate. It only
go
takes
to the FTC site. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So Herschel, tell us a little bit about how identity thieves use the identity that they steal from us.
Yeah, absolutely. So what they do typically is they make transactions on accounts, open up new accounts. And it's pretty prominent within the retail community, really, with a lot of the younger, I would say, demographic working in the retail stores. And then you'll have someone go in and impersonate someone else. And basically what you're looking at is, and I hate to say this, it's just I'm not going to say no concern, but it's very little concern, because typically a lot of those retail, I guess you would say customer service reps, they're looking to get through their day. They're making minimal pay. So they don't have a lot of those guards up that will protect those consumers as they come in to transact. So it's fairly easy to get some of those through some of those retail stores. Online is another one. They commit fraud in that aspect. They commit cyber crimes. Lord have mercy. Can you imagine the cyber crimes that you could be accused of if someone were to compromise your information? We're not just talking about reputable sites like, for instance, Amazon or things of that nature. We're talking about some things that can get you criminally in trouble. I mean, some really, really, really big trouble, if you know what I mean. Get prescriptions. Kelly alluded to that whenever I mentioned the pharmacy, they're trying to get their hands on things that they know they shouldn't, right? And they receive medical treatment under false pretenses under your information. So again, these are just some of the ways that thieves may use your identity, but it's just a growing laundry list of different ways that they can potentially use it, though. I mean,
yeah. So I want to talk about one that's on the rise, and we've been hearing about this in the financial industry arena over the last couple of months. We've seen an increase because a lot of us are having to do remote banking because of trying to avoid, going into places where we're face to face with a lot of people. Right. There are some financial institutions that still haven't opened up their lobbies yet. And so members still need to do transactions. They need to get loans, right? Because they're still repairs to their home or posting things. Like, life is still going on.
Indeed.
The way that they're transacting is looking a lot different. And one of the things that we're hearing from both banks and credit unions are seeing an increase in even home equity loan fraud. So think about that for a minute. Think if you've ever received a home equity loan, or you know the process that you have to go through. Most loans, other than closing on an actual home loan, like a conventional home loan, right? But getting a loan using something else you already have as collateral, you can do all of that virtually.
Online.
At almost every financial institution offers that as a platform.
Yes, ma'am.
If someone were to steal your identity and pretend to be you with that bank or credit union, and they get a loan, they
open the account,
online banking,
the account to be deposited in, then they take
your money.
Jeez.
And then you find out when you get your statement 15 days later that you have a home equity line of credit loan that you owe a hefty monthly payment on that you can't show for. It's scary. It's sad. Yes. It's concerning. And it's like, how are people doing this? And we're finding that, people are going to extremes now, like people who are taking advantage, and the fraudsters are like,
desperate. They're desperate.
The word like it's a fun like gang name or something, but listen, it's they're people of all ages.
Yes.
All like you just never know. They look like you and I. They are normal, regular people who are nice, who talk to people, who have friends, who probably have a Facebook page,
right?
This kind of stuff. And they're flying under that radar and impersonating, even on a digital way. So some of those things could have been prevented and can be prevented, but what they're doing is they're finding the people that are willing to take the bait, or that are not using the tools they should be using to monitor and maintain their accounts on a regular basis. So if you're someone who does not use online banking, I'm not trying to scare you, but if you are afraid of learning how to go online and check your balances and stay on top of what's going on, or turn on notifications for push notifications for account activity, if you're not using those things because you're afraid to learn them and you never did, you are more likely to fall victim, even though without you even knowing, of someone else using your identity to do something like we just explained.
Because you don't know, you're not part of that world. So if you're not part of that world, you're not receiving firsthand information,
any of the updates,
an alert, right? Or a notification or anything. So you've far removed yourself from it. So like Kelly said, she's not trying to scare you or convince you otherwise, but it may be a channel that you may want to explore a little bit, if not for additional usage, at least to protect yourself with the information that it shares.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And remember earlier, Herschel said something about usually people who fall for the phishing scams and those sort of things, like the web stuff. Typically, those are people who are in some sort of desperate situation, right? So if you've said any of these things before, or if you say them out loud to other people, or if other people are around you and they hear what you're saying to that other person that you're talking about, and they're the bad guy that's near you, and they might be like, ooh, this is someone that I need to kind of tag along with. So it's like not a coincidence that you saw them maybe at the grocery store, and then an hour later you happen to see them at the other retail store. You're like, oh, I saw that person okay. Keep an eye out, because someone may be intentionally following you to know your habits, know where you shop, trying to get a glance at that debit card, trying to steal that wallet out of your purse. I mean, I know those stealing the wallet thing doesn't happen all the time, but people put a lot of time and effort actually into it. And if they could close
full-time job, it's a full-time job for some people, Kelly. It's not just seasonal. It's not just seasonal, like we're wanting to make them aware right now because it's seasonal time. We're making you aware because it is seasonal time. But this is a full-time job for career criminals that act on taking the identity of innocent people and using the information to be favorable and beneficial for them. This is a full-time job for them, and they make healthy figures doing so. So again, Kelly and I only want to remind you to be cautious that this is not old, this is not new, this happens every single day.
It does. It really does. And it's sad. And we want to make sure, the good thing is there's There's insurance and protection on accounts, but still, we don't want you to have to go through the headache of having to undo some of this stuff. It's not fun for you. It's not fun, of course, for your member service reps who have to help you through this. It's disheartening for us to see these things happen to our members.
You said that perfect, Kelly. It's
we love you guys. We love our members, and we want to help prevent that heartache and prevent those things from happening. And so we want to teach you how to use the tools that can help you on your own time, because we can only do so much. We can only send an email on something or do a push notification, so often. And so anyways, it's your responsibility. It's your account. We need you to do your part too. And then we certainly have things in place on the financial institution side to help protect you as well. So anyways, here's an example of a phishing email. So remember earlier I was telling you that there might be a spelling error. So this email appears as though it's from National Bank, but look at that email address. The I is missing in National Bank. Okay, here's another thing. It will tend to have a generic greeting. So instead of saying Mr. Holloway, it says dear customer. Or maybe there's unprofessional language that's used. This might be, an example of somebody who's just your average Joe Blow wrote this. They're not someone who maybe is, going to use professional language like someone who's drafting an email from the actual institution might use. So this says, we wish to help you stop this. Please sign in using the link below, or else your account and all of its money will be terminated. Like, we wouldn't use language like that. We would use a little bit of formality, of course. And then there's a fake login page. So again, it's missing that I in National Bank. So it looks legit. Looks like it's going directly to their site. Okay, let's move on to talk a little bit about phone scams. Herschel, read this for us if you would.
Absolutely. Hello, Mrs. James. You are a lucky winner of $1 million lottery. Congratulations. All we need from you is to verify your identity and social security number and provide us with details to your bank account where we can wire the money. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but if you act now, we should be able to waive all the taxes on the amount. I have all the paperwork with me right here. Let's start with your social security number. Kelly, this is probably one of the most common ones. And just really quick, I previously worked at a financial institution prior to coming on board with my credit union family. And there was this gentleman, I'm just gonna call him Mr. Luther, okay, just for argument's sake and privacy. But Mr. Luther was up in age, and Mr. Luther he has a significant balance in his checking and savings account. Just from some of his history of living, he was able to live frugal and save, right? And for the welfare of all of the clients and members, you always want to look out for their interests, regardless if it sounds like it's false. You gotta also understand that the person that they're trying to contact may have already been showing signs of vulnerability, right? So you have to be very, very careful of how you approach and have this conversation with some of the people that are sitting in front of you whenever they're thinking that some of these things are accurate, right? Mr. Luther often received phone calls from these companies saying that he had won foreign lotteries. Listen, let me tell you something. You are not a winner of a foreign lottery. Okay, let's just go ahead and nip that in the bud. For everyone that's listening, looking, you're not a winner of a foreign lottery. Mr. Luther received communication that he needed to provide information on his bank account for them to process the transaction and credit his account. I immediately stopped. I'm sorry. Did you lose me?
I want to hear how the rest of that story ends. So hopefully he'll come back here in just a little bit. I'll keep moving along until he can rejoin us. But yeah, I mean, this is Okay, I think we're back in. Sorry about that. I lost connection for a little bit, and I think Herschel is joining us again. He's going to be joining us here shortly. So we will keep on keeping on. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so let's move along here, and Herschel will be joining us here shortly. Okay, so there's also some common scams might be power of attorney. Power of attorney scams. Here's an example. At 87, Mr. Alley lives alone in his house. His wife passed away 10 years ago, and his children live in a different state. Recently, he met a young man called Samir who said he was Mr. Alley's long lost nephew. Samir quickly moved into Mr. Alley's house and helped with his daily chores. Mr. Alley was so grateful that he agreed to give Samir power of attorney so that he could manage the household finances. Unfortunately for Mr. Alley, Samir spent all of his money and put him into debt. Sometimes it's not a situation as, you know, extreme as this one from, you know, from someone that you don't know. Sometimes there's even people that you do know that do this to you. Might be an extended family member that really is an extended family member. And so you just want to be real careful with that. Housekeepers, people that do work for you and things like that, be real careful. You know, just trusting them with those sort of things. You want to make sure that you have a reliable family member that's close to you, that has your best interest at heart, kind of involved there. Okay. Okay, so special cases of identity theft. There could be child identity theft. There's a couple of really interesting stories that I've read out there of people, you know, using children's information actually to apply for loans and credit cards and things like that. So you want to be just as careful with their information as well. Medical identity theft. A thief can definitely use your medical identity to access your health care or get prescription medication or claim insurance benefits and things like that. And then once thieves have your access to your social security number and your name, they may file a tax return using your identity. Let me text Herschel real quick and let him know that I am back in and he can join us if he is able to. Not sure what's going on with technology here. Okay. All right. So let's talk about red flags of identity theft. So here's some things that you want to look for to make sure that you are, you know, keeping an eye out for some things that might be going on. There may be unusual charges on your credit card or financial account. Always, always, always read your statements. Don't just look at the balances and the minimum payment and those sort of things. Go through the line items and make sure there's nothing that's questionable there. Look for unusual changes in your credit report and your credit scores. As we've mentioned in the past, you can review your credit report for free from each of the 3 bureaus at annualcreditreport.com. And right now you can pull your report weekly right now through the end of the year. And that's something that they opened back up during COVID because fraud was on the rise beginning February, March. So make sure that you go take a look at that, see if there's lines of credit or anything that's open. Even inquiries could be something that can really help you understand if somebody's trying to do something. An unusual denial of credit card application or service. So there is a law that requires a creditor to send a letter of denial in the event that you have applied for something but got declined. And so if you got a letter that says that, then there's a good clue right there that somebody tried applying for something in your name using your social security number. And then unusual calls from debtors or collection agencies for debts that you do not owe. Obviously, that's a big red flag. Unusual bills for services or products that you have not used. denial of services, unusual increases in insurance or interest rates. That's a good indicator that maybe there's something going on if you have like a variable rate that's based on credit, because your credit score may have gone down and therefore your rates may have changed. If you see incorrect medical history information reported, sometimes there can be keystroke information that's done incorrectly. Like one time, I remember having a member who it had like a different variation of their name, but somebody just typed it in incorrectly when they put the application in, but the information still pulled up based on that person's social security number. But you want to be careful of that. If you see, you know, too many instances of that, or when you see a misspelling of the name, you still may want to question, could somebody have just spelled my name incorrectly? Like my name is spelled with an I, but sometimes someone may think that my name is spelled with Y because they're not paying attention to detail, right? Lost bills or mail. IRS reports indicating that more than one person has filed a tax return using your social security number. This unfortunately has happened to me. And it was several years back. So sorry, I'm not really sure what's happening here with our connection. Let me ask Herschel to try one more time. Otherwise, we may have to just do a redo here. The connection is not on our side today. That is for sure. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up real quick. Let me go to the last screen real fast. I'm so sorry for the issues here. Okay, here's what you need to do in the event that you have located or identified something. Collect all of the information that you have that kind of backs up what's happening. If you have any information, collect all that information and then report it to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, or any fraud departments, or law enforcement. If it's regarding, you know, a particular retail store or financial institution or merchant, something like that, make sure that you provide that information to them as well, because they need to know what they can do to protect their customers as well. And then, you know, work to repair that damage as much as you can. Ask questions. How can I do this? Call the bureaus that the credit reports are on if it's something credit related. What can I do to report this as fraudulent? And yay, there he is. I just jumped to the end. I don't think it's you. I think it's something going on because you lost connection and so did I, and we're in different places. So anyway, it is what it is. The joys of webinar, digital, whatever in 2020. It's all good. So, you know, make sure then that you can, you know, have all of that stuff to help you try to repair the damage as much as possible. You know, there's a lot of really great people that will help you, you know, in the credit union that will help make this right. I have an instance that I wanted to share with you that happened to me recently, and it was so bizarre. So I use an app on my phone that here at Envision that I get a push notification every single time my debit card has been used. And I'm sitting at my desk working and I see a push notification saying my pending charge with Grubhub or Bite Squad, one of the two, I can't remember which one it was pending. And I was like, let me click on that because I didn't make an order. And it was a big order. It was like $40-something. I'm like, I ain't that hungry. I mean, I'm hungry a lot, but I ain't that hungry to spend $40-something bucks, right? and I'm sitting in my office. And then I click on it and it's in another state. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Almost simultaneously, I get a text message from the driver of the company saying that she wanted to verify my location because she was on her way for a drop off. I instantly called her and I said, whoa, I didn't order anything. Where are you located? And someone had literally purchased $40-something worth of KFC and it was being delivered. But the cool thing was I had the address to where these people were, but I think it was like a public park or something like that.
Ah, makes sense.
It wasn't like someone's home, but at least we knew the area that it was in. And then maybe 10 minutes later, there was another one, same company, different address, different town. And it was, so what they did is they logged in as me. So that means they had my email address and my password or created a new password to Grubhub. And it's like, whoa, how did they get that? How did they know to get that? Like, that's what really scared me. Of course, I'm instantly like reporting it as theft. I'm changing my email password. I logged into the Grubhub or Bite Squad, whichever one it was, changed the password there so they couldn't go in and do that anymore. But then I was able to go in and do screenshots of the addresses that were ordered and the restaurants that they ordered from. And then I went over to the Federal Trade Commission and I reported the identity theft, which helps them do their job, right? Which helps them do everything. But listen, you want to change your passwords regularly. That wasn't something that was talked about in here. When those little indicators that say if you have a weak or moderate or strong password, they're there for a reason.
Absolutely.
Do a strong password. And don't use the same password for everything. That's hard. That's hard.
It is, because we want to make it easy. Yeah, we want to make it easy for us, Kelly, and we'll take shortcuts, just like we take images of our debit card and keep them in our personal and mobile safe. I've never seen anyone leave their home with their safe in their hand with all their personal documents and their credit cards and debit cards and going around to the stores and leaving it on their front seats and doing it. I've never seen anyone do that, Kelly. So why in the world are we doing it with our mobile safes, right? Why are we doing that with our mobile safes? Come on, we've got to be proactive. We've got to think ahead. Like Kelly said, you know, she fell victim, but it wasn't something that she did.
I didn't do anything.
She didn't do anything intentionally, right? It's probably from stored information that had been left on that ordering site. Imagine how many other companies, organizations, and etc. already have our personal information. It may not be us that causes our information to be compromised. It could be that company. It could be the business that we've given our information to, that we've entrusted, like our doctor's offices, right? Like the reputable companies that deliver food, like what Kelly's used, right?
And I didn't already have my card number saved with them. So whoever it was that went in there, they had my email address and they added my card number as the payment, and I didn't have my card number stored in there for this reason. I have my number stored in there, so I was like, they knew that this email address belonged to this debit card. So they were pretending to be me, and I'm like, this is nuts. Like, so you never know, folks. You just never know what's going on out there. Use the apps, use online banking, go in and check out transactions on a regular basis. Okay. Okay. So remember, identity theft takes various forms and targets many different types of people. Be aware of how you share your information. Look around you.
Yes.
Cognizant of who you're talking to and who's around you. Continuously monitor your finances. I cannot tell you this enough.
Say it again, because if they're monitoring their health, they should be monitoring their financial health just the same, Kelly. There's no difference. Yeah. They both go hand in hand, health and wealth. You get stressed out, I promise you, it's probably going to result in you spending more money for medical attention, right? So keep in mind, protect yourself. Put the same amount of focus on the things that mean the most to you. Don't lower your finances in your overall respective of watching everything that takes place around your identity and everything else, don't lower that on your priority list. Push it up. And why Kelly and I just say that it's shopping and it's holiday season. It's holiday season every day of the week for people that are looking to take advantage of you.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. If you're watching this and you know someone who's 65 or older, or you are 65 or older, this age group is the most susceptible to not I don't want to say falling victim, because there's a lot of things that are, again, like Herschel said, that we're not doing it on purpose. Obviously, it's not something that we didn't do, but or that we did intentionally, but maybe it's something that we accidentally didn't do. And that's like, if you feel like you have a loved one that is having a hard time keeping up with the digital aspect of all of this, help them learn the tools, take the time. If you don't know how to use online banking, if you don't know how to use the app, come into one of our financial centers, and we have wonderful, helpful guides right there in our financial center that will help you get that set up. They will help you create a strong password and show you how to use it, show you how to set the push notifications so that you can get a little pop-up anytime your debit card is used or something like that. I think that's the scariest part, is learning how to use all these tools, but the world is just, it's changing so fast. It's moving so fast. It's like we hear about something and people are like, yeah, that's been happening for years. And it's like, but this just happened to me. One of the things I was saying, Herschel, whenever I reconnected after one of our little mishaps here, I was saying that unfortunately, my husband and we went to file our taxes one year, and we got that dreaded, your return has already been filed. And we waited until like 2 weeks before the end of tax season. Man, I can tell you now, we always file now, ever since then, within the first 5 days of tax season, because you're less likely to have that happen to you. And we got our next year's tax return back before the fraud year. And we have no idea what happened, but somebody somehow and we filed with a tax accountant. So
again, it's nothing that you did, Kelly. It's nothing.
It's like, how, where are they getting this information?
See?
So crazy. Yeah. So, all right. So protect your data using safe habits, such as regularly changing your passwords. There are some really cool apps out there that you can store passwords in, but I'd recommend that you use the ones that you have to pay for, not the freebies. Make sure they're legit, make sure that they're safe before you do that. But that way you can, when you change a password, you can put it in there. And then Google also, if you use Google at all, Google has a really cool feature through the browser that it can tell you if your passwords have been potentially compromised. And it can tell you, would you like to change the password for that? So for all the sites that you have stored, that you log into. So a lot of really neat thing. I know we've hit you with a lot of stuff, and you're probably like, oh my goodness, this is just, it's heavy and it's a lot. But like I mentioned before, we care about you. We care about your financial, situation. We don't want to see you distraught. And we don't want to see you have concerns and headaches and things like that. We want you to stay safe. And so if you are an Envision Credit Union member and you are watching this, here's your homework. You have homework. If you do not already use online banking or the app, your homework is to learn how to use it. Get online, go to envisioncu.com, chat with us, call our contact center, get on the phone with somebody, walk into one of the financial centers and talk to a guide and be shown how to use it so that you can become familiar with it. It's not as scary as it seems, I know, but I can tell you it's worth the time and the effort to learn it and to learn something new, and the uncomfortable feeling of learning something new, because you don't know what information people may or may not be grabbing that's yours if you're not logging in and taking a look at those things. You're just very, you're just out there exposed. And, you know, you need to be checking in. You need to make sure those passwords are set, because you don't want to find out that somebody has set up an online banking as you when it wasn't you, and they pretended to be you because they had all your information. So please, 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 I implore you to go do that. It's very important that you do it. So wow, what a way to end on a heavy, I like it. We need something funny.
Knock, knock.
Uh-oh, who's there?
Lunch.
I had a feeling something about food was up. It is lunchtime for us, at least. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Don't forget to check out the rest of the month's information for webinars at envisioncu.com/webinars. We hope that you will check it out.
Yes.
And sorry for the technical issues today, but it looks like I think we made it okay to the end. Yep. We're good. If you want to check out a past webinar that you might have missed, go to envisioncu.com/webinars. You can see them at the bottom of the page. And then you can also register for a future webinar to join us here on the Zoom. Hope that you guys have a wonderful week. Go protect your accounts and go make sure everything is taken care of. And we will see you next week. Herschel, thank you for joining me today. We look forward to having Kelly back with us next week. All right, y'all take care. Bye now.
See you guys.